Today we're going to talk about Art Nouveau. What is Art Nouveau? Art Nouveau is a term in French that means new art. It's an artistic movement that developed at the end of the 19th century. They used to love handmade things, opposed to industrial produced items. This term actually was born in France because there was this shop called Maison de l'Art Nouveau, where there were showcase, exhibit some of the objects that we're talking about. Actually, at the beginning, it wasn't a big success, but it spread to Nancy and especially to Belgium, and from there to other countries. Art Nouveau is considered a complete art style because it embraces architecture, graphic art, interior design, and they consider with the same importance either painting architecture with decorative art such as jewelry, furniture, glass making, lighting, meaning that any object can be an object of art. What is the origin of this movement? Well, we have to mention William Morris, which was an artist, but especially an English intellectual, that opposed to the Industrial Revolution, that wanted a revival of the Gothic style, since it was a very spiritual movement, and started the arts and crafts movement. Well, this is a map of the where Art Nouveau was very important. You see, it was spread all over Europe, from Spain to Helsinki, Russia, all over the places. What are the main features of this movement? Well, first of all, they have flat decorative patterns. They use a lot vegetal decoration, so they are inspired in flowers and plants. Actually, in some places it's called also floral art. They emphasize the importance of handcraft opposed to machine manufacture. They use new materials. They reject the earlier styles. What is Art Nouveau in architecture? Well, talking about architecture, we say that they like it asymmetrical shapes. They love the curved form, the arches, anything that is curved glass, curved furniture. They love mosaics, stained glass. Now we're going to talk about one of the most important painters of this period, which is Gustav Klimt. Gustav Klimt is Viennese painter. Vienna was one of the most important cultural vital cities of Europe in that moment, in that period of time. Gustav Klimt was born in July 1862 and died in 1918. Was the founder of the movement called Vienna Secession. That secession means to divide, because they want to make a point of their disagreement for what was the previous art. So they just wanted to show that they disagreed with what was on, and so that's why they call themselves secession. Okay. Well, one of the main references for Klimt was Ravenna. Ravenna, he visited Ravenna, and he was enchanted by the mosaics, and especially the use of gold and the use of glass in this artwork. So he's gonna use all these influences in their own work. His subjects are mainly female portraits. He was a very acknowledged portrait painter, but he also is interested not just in the portraits, but in the female figure, as such as like a mother bringing birth, life, and death. He was obsessed with woman. That's Adele Bloch-Bauer, which is one of the paintings that was famous lately because they made a film. The film was called Woman in Gold. It told a story about a woman, a Jewish woman, who tried to get back this painting from Austria that was stolen by the Nazi party. Well, these are some examples of the woman portraits. Here instead we got this painting of medicine, which is a series of paintings that he made in the faculty of medicine, where they considered it very scandalous because it didn't really portray the traditional idea of medicine. Famous Kiss, Hope, Tree of Life. Okay, we're gonna talk about Judith. Who's Judith? What sort of woman does she represent? What is the source of inspiration for the background drawings? What does the use of gold mean? Do you think the frame is relevant? So, who's Judith? What sort of woman does she represent? What is the source of inspiration for the background drawings? What does the use of gold mean? Do you think the frame is relevant? So, who's Judith? Well, actually, Judith is one of the most portrayed women in the history of art. She's a biblical female hero. She's well known because she, in order to save her village, she seduced the enemy, Holofernes, and when he got drunk, he cut his head and he took the head of the enemy back to her village, and she was claimed like a hero. It's a very strong female character. And plus, they said that she was exceptionally beautiful. Obviously, we can see that the representation of Klimt is not a very biblical one, because he actually stresses a very erotic character. You can see her breast, and here this transparent fabric who reveals her other breast. But maybe it's her face with this seductive smile, her pink cheeks. So, if she is a biblical character, but she is not portrayed as a biblical character. So, Klimt, where does he get his inspiration? He is inspired by Salome of Oscar Wilde, which is obviously the alternative character. Salome is the evil woman who seduces Herodias and makes John Baptist cut his head. So it's the opposite, the anti-heroine. and she is a seducer. So there was this Oscar Wilde play which became very famous in that period of time. And so Klimt was influenced by this character, Salome, when he painted Judith. As you can see in the background, there are some drawings. First of all, we acknowledge the use of gold, as we mentioned before. And we know that it comes from the Ravenna mosaics. But why gold? Well, gold is not because of the idea of richness, but the idea who wants to convey is spirituality, transcendence. It's like in the medieval mosaics that they place the characters in a gold background in order to set them in a heavenly context, or in a spiritual context. So that's the same for Judith. But as we can see, there are no mosaics here. There are sort of some three drawings. Actually, these three drawings come from the Knossos Palace, who was yet discovered at the beginning of the 19th century. So they were very important and very famous, and so he got inspiration of the Knossos Palace. The frame, obviously, is very relevant. It was handmade by his brother, and it's also part of the painting. Here you got the answers, okay, as we were explaining before. And then we're going to do another painting, which is the Danae. Who's Danae? What sort of woman does she represent? What do the rectangles and the circles mean? What does the use of gold mean? What do the public think about this painting? So, who's Danae? Danae, once, is not a biblical character, whereas it's a mythological character. Danae was a princess who was closed in a tower by his father, because he had this prophecy that said that her daughter will carry the son that will kill the king. So Danae's son will eventually kill his grandfather. Well, you know, we're talking about mythology, and you know that Zeus is a very special character in mythology, so he knew that Danae was a very special beauty, and he wanted to meet her. So he became a golden rain so that he could get into the tower, and he penetrated Danae, and they generated a son, which is the one that would eventually kill his grandfather. So that's the idea. Obviously, Klimt wants to convey this idea of an erotic moment, because as we can see, Danae has this face of a very pleasure expression, no? Which she's feeling something very pleasant. Her posture is very strange, no? It's like a curve, and actually, people didn't like it because some people said that it was like a pile of rags, no? So that it didn't make many sense, and especially because this sexual meaning implied is very explicit. Circles mean female, it's a symbol for female. Rectangles for men, okay? And gold, obviously, it's for the gold reign of Zeus. And here are the answers that you got all written down. Okay.